Hello, hello, dolls. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. So it is that time again. You guys have sent in your unpopular opinions, and so I will be ranking them and giving my thoughts on you guys' opinions, and just kind of doing my best to be impartial and be fair, but also be honest and tell you guys what I really, really think. So just like last time, it's all for fun. It's just opinions. No one's right, no one's wrong. We're just here to have a good time. So let's go ahead and jump over to the other screen so I can get the tiers explained and we can go ahead and get started. So the top one is 24K. That means I completely love your opinion and I could not have said it better myself. We share a braid means I very much agree. Okay, it just means kind of like I do not know where you're going with that. Or it can also mean like I don't really have an opinion on that. You're neither right nor wrong. I have nothing to add. Whatever that means I do not understand. I don't understand you. And then Beyonce, that is peak delusion. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Gen Z has a really unhealthy obsession with aging. Calling 25-year-olds hags is not it. It's not. And I feel like we've gotten to the point where we call anyone above the age of 20 old. And I promise if you're below 20 and you're thinking, well, that is old, when you hit 20, you're going to realize it's not. I'm 24 now and I'm kind of like, oh my God, I feel like a 5-year old in the real world. And it's just, I don't know. We have a really unhealthy mentality around aging. And I feel like the way it should be considered is, you know what? Your two options are either get older or die. Not everyone has the blessing of reaching 25 years old. I feel like that's like kind of easier said than done is what I should have said in a society that makes us feel like shit once we turn 25 or like, oh, I have to accomplish everything by 30. But it's not true. It's not true. I'm going to say 24K for that opinion because we have nothing to fear getting older. All right, next one. Extensive track lists should be acceptable depending on the type of artist it is. If the artist has been MIA from music, then I don't see an issue with it, especially if it's highly anticipated. Realistically, the general public would want 10 or 20 plus songs from the likes of Beyonce, Nicki Minaj, or Rihanna, just to name a few, despite it having fillers, because eventually the fillers will become bops. So I feel like I've been talking about this a lot recently, and probably because of SOS, which just came out, had 23 tracks on it. I don't have a problem with an album that's long, but I do have a problem with albums that are long, and they're long because they have filler on there. It's very hard to achieve having an album or a project that has 20 plus songs on there, and they're all, I don't want to say they're all good because like all the songs on SOS are good. And it's not like the songs are bad, but if you have really, really strong, really quality songs on an album and then some songs that in comparison to those songs do sound subpar, I think it overall it hurts your project and detracts from it. So I don't think, oh, just because SZA hasn't released an album in 5 years, just because Frank hasn't released an album in what is it, I think 6 years, that doesn't mean that the next project has to have 40 songs on it for the sake of it having 40 songs. And I get your point in that, oh, well, we've been waiting for a long time, so they should just give us as much content as possible. But I do still think that when you're putting out an album, in my opinion, that the goal there is to kind of have a message or story or theme and execute that in a way that's both creative and succinct. And I don't mean that in, oh, it has to be as short as possible, but you're supposed to try to get the message across in as tight and as cohesive of a way as possible. But I do think that some editing usually is beneficial when it comes to, okay, do these all have to go on one album? Like you could release several mixtapes or several, parts to an album or something like that. It kind of makes me think about how sometimes makeup artists or people who like kind of create palettes will do collections or like little mini palettes with shades that didn't make it into the big palette, like even something like that. Like sometimes you do have to edit. I'm gonna put that in. I'm debating between okay and whatever that means because did I agree with anything that they said? I'm gonna put that in whatever that means because I don't think that, oh, because it's this artist, because they haven't released in a while, they have to give us a long project. I don't know if I agree with that. All right, next one. Cupcake. Cupcake is the only female rapper that lyrically is on the same level as Nicki, from bars to catchy punchlines and constantly switching up her sound, and she should go toe to toe with her on the track. Oh, so she could go toe to toe with her on a track. I agree with that. Like thinking about it, Cupcake and Nicki on a song, I don't know if they've ever been on one together. If they have, please inform me because I would love to listen to it. But I don't think they have. But Nicki and Cupcake on a song would be fun. And I agree that they could go toe to toe with each other. It wouldn't be like, okay, Nicki is dusting Cupcake, you know? I feel like we've been deprived now. I'm gonna put that in We Share a Brain. Cupcake, I want more for Cupcake because she's extremely talented, and I'm going to choose to be, let's say, optimistically naive and say that the only reason that her career is not, you know, I don't want to say where it should be because who am I to say where someone's career should be? I think the reason that she's not like super, super, super mainstream is because of the subject matter of her music. Like I said, I'm going to choose to be optimistically naive about that and say that it's not other reasons. All right, next one. I'm not a fan of Disney making their classics into live action. Also, I would like to see Black women in something fresh and new rather than these anniversary celebration or retelling of these movies. So I haven't seen that many of the Disney live actions, and it's because, I mean, from what I've heard, they've all sucked basically. So I don't think I'm missing anything. The only one that I've seen and liked was the Cinderella one from 2015. Um, so where I sit on this whole like adaptations, we're gonna cast a person of color in this retelling. While I get it, and while I get that, maybe we're getting away from, okay, this character was white in the original, so we're going to only seek out a white actor or actress and instead just give it to the person who's more qualified, which I feel like that is how casting should go in a lot of instances. I am kind of sick of, instead of creating a story to represent this culture, instead of creating another story to represent Black women, we're just going to shove her in the role of a character that was intended to be white. And I'm not saying like, oh, I don't want more people of colors to get roles. What I am saying is how representative is that really? And I think a perfect example of exactly what I mean is this whole sort of attempt to rewrite history and like make Hermione black. And as a black woman, I'm just kind of like, what are y'all doing? And this whole, well, it's just brown hair and brown eyes. So we never said that Hermione was white. Hermione was written as a white character. We can't deny that. And it's also been confirmed, I think, in the third book that she was white. When a character is not white in a book, in a story, authors go out of their way to make that clear because a lot of the times we consider white characters as a default. And my point is, with this whole Black Hermione thing or just casting a person of color for a character that was, originally white, is the character doesn't have the experiences of being a non-white person. So for example, we don't get any instances of Hermione facing any sort of racism or any sort of microaggressions for being a Black girl because she's not one in the books really. We do get her being mistreated because she's muggle born, okay, but we don't see that being any complicated or any more layered because of her race. And you can't say, oh, because wizards aren't racist, there's no racism in Harry Potter, because there is an instance in the book that I remember very clearly because I was like, what the hell? Why is this in here? When Pansy Parkinson, who I'm assuming she's white in the book, makes a racially charged comment about Angelina Johnson, who is described as a Black girl in the story, which if she's described as a Black girl would make you wonder why Hermione was never described as Black, because she's not. But anyway, Pansy makes a comment about Angelina having braids, and it's like, oh, like why would someone want to look like they have like worms coming out of their head or something like that, referring to her braids. So that would lead one to believe that people do see race in the Harry Potter universe. Also, I think Dean Thomas is described as being a Black person in the books. So if J.K. Rowling has gone out of her way to tell us when someone is white and when someone is not, we're not going to sit here and act like Hermione could have been Black. And my whole point in saying that is that when we just kind of retroactively make a character a person of color, now we have missed every experience that they have or every experience that a person of color would have in real life that is informed by their color, is informed by their race, their culture, their ethnicity, any of that. That is all taken out when we take a character who moved through their life as a white person for the entirety of the story, and then we just put another layer of identity onto that character that never existed. So for that, I think I'm going to put that in We Share a Brain. I'll put that in We Share a Brain. The fewer artists that stuck to being white and didn't run after the I'm going to be racially ambiguous trend. And that's the reason why out of all of the white artists, she gets called the white woman in a very negative connotation. I feel like when people try to call Taylor Swift like the white woman or the white girl as an insult. I think what they're really getting at is that there is an element of ignorance, and I'm not saying like intentional ignorance there, to the point of Taylor not being able to understand the fact that being a woman is not necessarily the worst or most oppressive thing that you can be. And there are several women across the planet who not only have to deal with being a woman, making their lives harder, or, being oppressive to them in whatever way, but also on top of that is the element of them not being a white woman or a white person. So if you are a white woman, 9 times out of 10, you still have more social capital than being a woman of any other race. And I feel like a lot of the times in conversations or in arguments or altercation scandals, whatever, that Taylor has gotten in, that element has been very much missed. One that comes to mind is when Nicki Minaj was kind of upset about not being and about Anaconda not being nominated for a VMA, and Taylor was like, "Oh, maybe one of the men took your spot." It's heard like the siren or something. Mind you, Nicki Minaj was not talking to or about Taylor Swift in this conversation, but Taylor inserted herself and kind of missed the point, thinking, "Oh, Nicki was just upset because a man took her spot." And it's like, no, not only is it about Nicki being a woman, but it's also about her being a woman of color, in this instance, a black woman. So yes, she's automatically going to be less respected than men, just like Taylor, because she's a woman. But even then, she's still a rung below Taylor typically, as far as just respect and how she's viewed, because she is a black woman. I think that very much went over Taylor's head. I think Taylor Swift and Emma Watson have a very similar brand of feminism, where a lot of the times it sort of lacks intersectionality or lacks the idea or the awareness of the idea that being a woman, yes, does stack things against you, but being a woman of color, being a queer woman, being a disabled woman adds elements to that oppression. And maybe it doesn't make it worse, but it can make the oppression different in ways that just being a white woman you may not understand. And I do just want to point out that the instance I brought up was like 7 years ago. So I don't even know if this is Taylor's mindset now. And I do want to point out that we kind of come for Taylor Swift sort of like ignorance as, a white woman who's always lived as a white woman, and we don't necessarily come for the ignorance that comes with sort of looking racially ambiguous, even though that you're very much a white person. We don't call out that ignorance with the same amount of energy. And so I do agree with that part. I think because Taylor keeps herself, like, just stays in her lane as a white woman and presents as nothing other than a white woman, as she should, like, she shouldn't be presenting as anything other. But I think it kind of enhances the stark difference of, Taylor Swift versus like someone like Ariana Grande, because when Ariana Grande was in her light skin era, a lot of us, for better for worse, we're like, okay, that's my homegirl, she's kicking it with us, she's using the language, when that's also a white woman. And I'm not saying that people were 100% okay with Ariana Grande, but I do want to say, and to this person's point, she wasn't attacked for it in the way that Taylor was, or made to look as ignorant about it as Taylor Swift has been made to look in a lot of conversations. I agree. I think we share a brain. All right, next one. I'm a firm believer in the fact that we do not give Carly Rae Jepsen the flowers she deserves as a pop artist. I am a huge fan, and obviously she's popular, but it's so interesting to see how little recognition she gets for her other works if you're not into music. The Loneliest Time was honestly one of the best albums of 2022, and I am so glad that it's getting more play, but I don't think people realize how much of a pillar she is in great pop music. You know what? I'm someone who's guilty of not giving Carly Rae Jepsen the respect that she deserves. So it seems like while I should not be able to have an opinion on this, I do just want to point out the fact that I have never seen someone say something negative or rude about Carly Rae Jepsen's music. And every time I see people talk about her, it's because they're praising her music or saying that more people should be listening to it, more people should be giving it the respect that it deserves. One of my closest friends, he's a huge fan of Carly Rae Jepsen, and it's just always something positive. Like, I've never heard like her release a project and people are like, this is terrible. I feel like with everything she puts out, people are like, oh my god, give Carly Rae justice. I'm gonna put that in 24K, because you know what? I feel like this was directed at me, even though it wasn't. I kind of feel like it was, because I need to give Carly Rae her flowers. Saying Beyonce is overrated is not unpopular at this point. You're not different. I agree. And I feel like I've done a good job as presenting myself as someone who fully respects Beyonce's work and her talent, but is not like unrealistic or delusional about Beyonce's talent. But in what world can you say Beyonce is overrated? Beyonce is not overrated, what it really is that a lot of Beehive acts as if she can't do anything wrong. Like I've seen people in my comment section say, and I quote, Beyonce can't make a mistake. Beyonce is perfect at everything she does. Beyonce does not mess up. And it's like if you like be realistic first of all. Everyone makes mistakes. Everybody has those days. No, I'm joking. But there are like videos of Beyonce making mistakes on stage. And who cares? Because everyone does. But it's like when you sit there and act like she's perfect and is incapable of messing up or making a mistake, that's why people tend to believe that she's overrated. When you act like somebody can do no wrong, then you give people who want to call someone overrated an argument. So no, I don't think that Beyonce is overrated in the slightest. But I think that a lot of her fans kind of over exaggerating how perfect and how talented she is to the point where they've made her into like some goddess who is incapable of being flawed. That's when the overrated conversation starts. We share a brain for that one. All right, next one. Complaining when artists take a long time to put out a new project is so dumb. Sure, be excited for the next project all you want, but I find that fans are so impatient these days. We need to respect the artistic process can take a while in general, especially if other life stuff gets in the way. That applies to all artistic mediums. I agree. And sometimes I am kind of like, oh my God, where's the album? But I feel like I'm only that way about artists when they say something is coming and it's not. Like, I've never been like, Frank Ocean, where's the new album? Blah, 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 because he's never told us to expect, another project on this timeline or on this date. So it's like, if someone doesn't tell me I should be expecting something, then truly I don't. But if you keep telling me something's coming out and it's not, that's when I have questions. I'll put that in We Share a Brain. I feel like this happens all the time where like I agree with a lot of them because some of the opinions you guys give like aren't unpopular and I try to choose the unpopular ones, but a lot of these opinions to me aren't that unpopular. Became lazy and became a passionless person who makes songs just for sale with like only one good song on an album since 2016. Yeah, I don't have much to say about this one. I feel like Drake has just become a troll. His music has become very silly. Yeah, not much to say about that one. 24K. All right, I want to be positive, so I'm going to say, in all honesty, that I feel like we've been living in an album quality golden age since 2019. The industry shift has let artists have more creative control, and so many amazing records are being released with no label and completely undiscovered yet. People are just more creative right now, especially the small artists, but big artists like Beyonce and Rosalia have been killing the game too. Yeah, I feel like music has been very fun lately. And I think the pandemic has been a reminder that life is just too short, you know? Like, let's just make the music that makes us happy. Let's just do what we want. And I think when you are cooped up or when terrible things happen, it does sort of stretch your brain to create something that makes you happy or create something that's more true to yourself and more in line with what you want. Once you realize, like, at the end of the day, all our time on earth is limited. So I might as well just make the art that I want to make. I'm going to put that in We Share a Brain. Guys, give me some things that are like actually unpopular. Okay. Doja Cat is arguably the best mainstream female rapper of this generation, but doesn't get recognition as a rapper and instead gets it more as a pop star because she doesn't stay in the rap genre like the other rap girls, especially in regards to awards nominations. She's rarely nominated in rap categories and gets more pop and R&B nominations. Yeah, I've noticed that most of her nominations are pop and R&B, and while she does obviously make music in those genres, like you've stated, I do feel like a lot of people forget that Doja Cat is a rapper. I think on this actual post where I asked for unpopular opinions, someone was like, Doja Cat is not a rapper, she's a pop star. Doja Cat is a rapper. And I'm just like, I feel like we just keep moving the goalposts as to who we consider a rapper and who we don't. And I feel like a lot of people, they just don't consider someone a rapper if they don't like their music. Like, I'm going to be completely honest. Doja Cat is a rapper. I think she is one of the best mainstream female rappers of this generation. Easily, easily. Wordplay is there, flow is there, stage presence is there. She writes her own music. Yeah, obviously. I'm gonna put that in 24K. And even when the billboards happened, when were they May? And I saw all those R&B nominations she got. I wasn't mad, but I was just kind of like shook. Like y'all do anything to not put certain people in rap categories. All right. Singers who can't sing in the traditional sense, like Aretha, Whitney, Mariah, level church vocals, that's who she's saying can sing in the traditional sense, by the way, are valid. I feel like people sometimes forget that the voice is an instrument and it's capable of many different sounds, and it takes a special spark to be able to sell certain types of vocals. Janet Jackson's sultry whisper, David Bowie's bellowed croon. People talk about how singers can't sing anymore, but these veteran acts who are considered greats today weren't always praised for their vocals. Not every song has to be belted out with killer notes in a stadium. Sometimes we just want vibes that are a little rough around the edges. I completely agree. My throat is dry. I completely agree with this. And I think to me, I think there's a difference between a singer and a vocalist. The only thing that I think is odd is that now we don't have as many vocalists as we have singers. The amount of vocalists we have and people who are actually trained vocally has been dwindling as time goes by. And I don't think that's a terrible thing. And I don't think it's killing music. And I think a great example of someone like this is Selena Gomez. I don't think Selena Gomez can sing. And I think when people say that she can sing, they're just trying to kid themselves or say, oh, because I like her music, that must make her a great singer. No, she makes awesome music. I love Selena Gomez music, but I don't think the girl can sing that well. But does she have to make the music she makes? Absolutely not. Her voice is very soft, it's very subtle, it's very sultry, and she has found music that lends itself very well to what her voice sounds like. I don't think everyone has to be the best singer in the world to make good music. And I don't think if you're not the best vocalist in the world, you should have to stick to being a songwriter or producer. I'll put that in 24K. Another person I feel this way about is Charlie XCX. Like she's not the best singer in the world, but her music is so unique and her voice itself has so much character in it that only she can do her songs justice. And she's not the best singer in the world, but she's using her voice for character as another sonic instrument and it works perfectly. I find destination weddings to be kind of selfish at times. Depending on the location, I would hate to force people to spend money on plane tickets and hotel rooms on top of other expenses like gifts and clothing, etc., if they want to buy those things. I completely agree. I feel like you should not have a destination wedding unless you're going to buy everyone's plane ticket. Maybe not the hotel, because I think when people travel normally for weddings, the hotel expenses on them. But I think if their only option is this crazy ass luxury resort, that is super expensive and is more expensive because it's a destination wedding, then maybe you should pay. But yeah, destination weddings are insane. I'm gonna put that on We Share a Brain. Rihanna was first able to make it because she went full emo, short, spiky hair. Had she not done that, she would have faded away after the second album. If Normani, Rita Ora, Chloe Bailey, Tinashe, insert all the girls who never really made it, pulled a really interesting look like Rihanna did, they might have had a chance. They need to stop relying on the hyper feminine look that everyone does. They take a page from Billie Eilish, whose style I did not like but can admit makes her memorable. So I don't necessarily think that Rihanna made it because she switched up her style. I think Rihanna made it because that sort of edgy, good girl gone bad vibe was perfect for Rihanna because I think it's who Rihanna truly was and is on the inside. And kind of stepping into that sort of bad girl, bad gal Riri sort of persona wasn't Rihanna doing a character. I think the girl like me, I'm just a sweet island girl from Barbados. I think that was the character and the way to kind of get her into the door because I think it's really easy to be like, oh, like she's just being, or hyper feminine girls are just like everyone else, and that's why they're not standing out. But when you really actually think about it and look at it, society, 9 times out of 10, from their female artists, they do want someone who is hyper feminine and who does fit into our sort of concept of femininity and of what a woman should be and should look like. Femininity can be a whole bunch of different things. So I don't think saying that, oh, because an artist or several artists present themselves as hyper feminine, they automatically don't stand out. Because hyper feminine can be presented, like I just said, in different ways. I don't even want to say we're there. We're getting to the place where we can allow Black artists to be alternative and be different and not present within traditional ideas of femininity. And I do acknowledge that those are different sometimes between races, but I do also think that with a lot of Black female artists, there is still the expectation to present as traditionally feminine. And so I don't necessarily think that Rihanna had it right because she went the alternative route where the girls who are staying hyper feminine, that's what's holding them back. I don't really think that that's true. I'm going to put that in whatever that means. I think what the actual thing about it is and about Rihanna is, and what a lot of these artists need to do is find something that sets you apart. But you can find a brand within your femininity that still sets you apart. Femininity isn't monolithic. So you can present yourself as a feminine artist and still find a way to set yourself apart. Like, for example, Taylor Swift and Nicki Minaj, both very, very feminine artists, present their femininity in completely different ways. So it is doable. Often there are talented singers and dancers in K-pop groups, but also often many are just there to be beautiful faces. Many don't have any special gift for dance or singing, even though Uber fans will argue otherwise. This I agree with. There are several idols that I can name, and I'm like, they only debuted because they're very attractive. If they had the amount of talent that they possessed and weren't as conventionally, and I would say even exceeding standards of conventional attractiveness, they would not have debuted. I mean, it is what it is. Like, I feel like sometimes stands get so offended by that. But at the end of the day, can I be mad at it? Not really. And the reason that K pop companies are doing this is because a lot of us are so visuals and so looks obsessed. Like, the amount of times that y'all call people hideous and ugly and say maybe they need this surgery, maybe they need that surgery. If we weren't so hung up on how people looked, then companies would genuinely focus on talent over looks. But at the end of the day, yes, these K-pop companies want to entertain us, but they don't want to entertain us because they care about us. They want to entertain us because they want our money. And if it's shown that all we care about and all we're going to pay attention to is looks, in order to get our money, they're going to give us people who are visually pleasing to look at. And sometimes that person's looks will supersede their talent if the company thinks that that is the way to get more money out of us. I know in a perfect world, an idol would be as equally talented as they are attractive. But when you have a whole group of people, sometimes you can, just let one of them just be a pretty face, be some eye candy when you have other idols within the group who can sing and can dance. But yes, I say all that to say that I completely agree. And I think it's wild that stands out like that's not true. That's going in the 24K category. To open the doors and sign a new up and coming talent like what Lil Wayne did for them, not what Drake does by signing what artists and have them work in the OVO sweatshop for him and never hear from them. Party next door, sort of. And Nicki should have signed these new girls instead of having beef with them. That was one long sentence. But yeah, I do agree with this. And it's funny because I've talked with one of my friends about this. I don't think Nicki or Drake should retire from music or anything. I don't think an artist ever really has to retire. But I do think it would have been nice to see them sort of take on like a sort of mentor role for the next generation and kind of just not like pass the torch, but kind of be, like I said, like the mentor, like sort of the godmother, godfather of the next generation of up and coming rap. And I think it would have been nice to see Nicki sort of embrace this next generation of girls more than she has. I don't think she has to, but it would have been really nice to see. I completely agree with that. I'll give that 24K. I feel like SOS didn't do much for me. Yes, it's a good album, but recently I don't find myself going out of my way to listen to it often. Some songs like Love Language, Seek and Destroy, F2F Nobody Gets Me, and Snooze are the songs that mainly make me feel this way. Also, no animosity towards SZA at all. Like, I literally love her with my whole heart, but Control really takes the cake for me. Is it not so annoying that when we just give a very valid opinion on not liking something, we have to be like, no hate towards the artist? And this is not me like shading this girl because I completely understand why she did it. Because now on the internet, when you just give an opinion, people are, oh, so you hate them, blah, 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 when it's not even true. I mean, I feel like everyone has every right to like or not like an album. And even when I was reviewing SOS, I was very open about the fact that the whole album didn't do it for me. And I was very open about the fact that the album could have been shorter and still could have been a strong project. So it's no surprise to me at all that some of the songs didn't land with people because I felt the same way. I mean, I guess I'll put it in K. I was like, I guess I have to disagree because I like the album, but there are some things that you're saying that I also agree with. I'll put it in K, our first one. But yeah, I've been seeing a lot of people say this about SOS. And while to an extent I do like it more than Control, I think everyone who doesn't like SOS more than Control is 100% valid. And people are fighting about this. I'm like, y'all just don't understand the concept of an opinion anymore. City Girls got more cultural impact than Cardi and Megan from their lingo, period, flued out, real bad, my man, etc., to the whole city boy versus city girl debate. Also, you literally cannot scroll down TikTok without hearing a sound from Young Miami or JT. They got this generation in a chokehold. I do agree that the City Girls really, they've had an impact over these past few years. And I saw this TikTok a couple days ago. If I can find it again, I'll insert it in this video because I think it sums up this person's argument perfectly. And I was like, I never really thought of it that way. But the city girls have sort of changed dating culture. And I think that that is a very interesting impact to come from music. But, life imitates art. And I think the city girls have made such a big impact. I'm going to put that in 24K. And I think the part about it that's kind of sad is that we kind of take a lot of the music that the City Girls and even Meg and Cardi make as just like silly and it's just fun ratchet music or whatever. But you don't realize how their sort of music, because it's so fun, because it's so accessible, because it's so relatable, actually has the highest amount of power in like changing how young people think about things and getting through to them. I'll say it's the least respected music, but it is the music that has the potential to impact a lot of young people the most. Mainstream pop music is due for a massive shakeup. Everyone is either doing the same things they were 6 years ago or trying to emulate old trends. Not that the music is bad, but I feel like nostalgia is preventing anything from changing. I feel like this can be said about several industries other than music. I feel the same way about TV and movies too. I'm like, when as a society did we collectively agree to just stop coming up with new things? Like everything is a reboot, everything is a reimagining, everything is a remake, everything is a spinoff, everything is a sequel. I'm not gonna act like I don't understand that every genre of musicians and artists does kind of take up influence from eras past, especially like the eras of music that they grew up with or they grew up around. What is the sound of the 2020s? Because the things that come to mind are house music, disco, Y2K, and all three of those things did not get their start in 2020. And they're just kind of, in a sense, reimaginings or influenced by music of decades past. So I kind of wonder if moving further into the 2020s, if we'll see what distinct sound kind of emerges. I don't know. And sometimes it takes a while because even something like trap music, it didn't get its start in the 2020s. It got its start, in the 2000s. So maybe we'll build off of something for this new decade, but I haven't really got any inkling of what. If you guys have any thoughts, let me know. I'm going to put that in We Share a Brain because this is something I've like talked about with people in real life. So it's kind of interesting that other people are feeling this way. But at the same time, like, how can you not at this point? Social media and tea-spilling culture has ruined the mystique of artists today. Since social media became a thing, it's created an environment for cyberbullying and entitlement mentality. Yeah, like I feel like we need to go back, and we never will, to the era where you actually had questions about celebrities. I don't need to know what you're eating for dinner. I don't need to know every thought that runs through your head. That is kind of like a frustrating part about celebrity, and it does ruin the mystique and the allure. I do think that the only good thing that that has done is kind of make people realize, not all, but make a lot of people realize that celebrities are actually just people and there's no point in idolizing them. But like you said, it has sort of taken the mystique away. But I think celebrities having a sort of mystique and mystery about them kind of lends itself to us sort of glorifying and deifying them more because we don't see them as human because they never showed us their human side before. But yeah, I think it's getting annoying because a lot of this is just it just ends up being negativity. Like a lot of the time celebrities just show us when they're upset about something or when they're beefing with people or they're rich. You know that they're rich, but then they post like a sports car or some object that is reflective of their wealth and their status that we're well aware of, and then people are mad. Like I saw people getting upset because Kylie Jenner posted on her Instagram story a giant Christmas tree. What did you want her to get like some little Charlie Brown Christmas tree? Like we all know that she's a millionaire, potentially a billionaire. What Christmas tree did you want her to get? So yeah, I think it does create an environment for cyberbullying. I'm not saying that Kylie Jenner was getting cyberbullied because of her Christmas tree, but then there are things like when Lotto's music got leaked and you guys made it a mission, as if you were getting paid almost to attack her looks, attack her character, attack her father, attack her personality, attack her music, attack her skills, attack her talent. And it does get to a point where it's completely excessive. And if social media didn't exist, you would not do that. If you saw Lotto walking down the street, most of y'all wouldn't say a word. A lot of y'all probably asked to take a picture of her or with her, knowing that you talk massive shit about her on the internet. And it's not just Lotto. Like it has created a culture where we feel that we are entitled to say whatever is on our mind to whoever, knowing that 9 times out of 10, these are not things that we would think about or would even come out of our mouths. in real life and in reality. I know I just got on my soapbox about that. Also, T spelling culture. I'm sorry. I just read her message again. And I'm like, that too. Like, everyone is so ready to tell everybody's secrets, and everyone is so ready to drop a dime on everybody. And it's like, for what? Like, y'all are not private investigators. Y'all are not getting paid. And it's like, half the time, y'all be sitting on information that's really good information, but you can't keep it to yourself long enough for it to be utilized as the good piece of information it is. But we always want to feel like we know the most, we're the most intelligent, we got there, we dropped the story first. And it's really not that necessary half the time. Like, we've turned the internet into a competition, and we've turned the internet into who can virtue signal the most and who has the correct take and who's the most politically correct, to the point where the internet is not fun anymore. Sometimes being on the internet feels like it is a job. And I know, like, for a lot of us and content creators, it is. But even when I'm on my own time, being on the internet feels like a job. And there's so many times where I'm just on TikTok, on Twitter, trying to have a good time, but I can't because y'all on your soapboxes fighting about shit. Always. But, anyways, I feel like anytime someone says something social media related, I need to rant. So that's going in 24K. About Taylor Swift, this isn't hate. I don't really care, in parentheses. I think that the music that she's made for most of her career is really very basic lyrically. I think becoming famous young stagnated her development as a songwriter because she was famous for a particular brand and style. And the money and following that brings in Okay, and the money that brings in and following that only acts as affirmation and as a huge incentive to keep doing what was successful for you. Again, I like some of her music, and You Belong With Me is one of them. Long after her teens, a lot of her lyrics stayed along the lines of what a teenager would write and think sounds deep or romantic. Not automatically battered, but underdeveloped and somewhat unfulfilling. I think it took quite a while for her to grow as an artist, and I think she's prematurely considered peers with artists she's only fairly recently been consistently on par with artistically. Yeah, I agree with this. And in my last unpopular opinions video, some people were acting like I was psychotic for saying that Taylor Swift is not one of the best songwriters out there. I don't know if I can speak to like whether it's stagnated, because I think with every Taylor project there are some songs that I really really connect with and some songs that I really really don't. Um Excluding Midnights, because I have not listened to Midnights yet, and what I've seen of it, in my honest opinion, I'm not super impressed, so I don't really feel any urgency to listen to that album. It could be wonderful, but I haven't listened to it. Um, so I don't know if her music has stagnated. And I think with the whole idea of like, oh, she's been kind of given or considered to be on par before it was, before she paid her dues. And when I'm thinking about it, we have kind of held Taylor Swift as some sort of icon for the past decade. And I don't want to say whether we should or should not have done that, but I think a reason for that is how many artists did we have when Taylor Swift reached her peak that could sing, that could write their own songs, that were a good entertainer, and who also played several instruments. So I think because Taylor has always sort of had that total package as an entertainer, and I think more so than a lot of artists from the time that she got big, I think that kind of pushed people to put her on this high pedestal pretty early on in her career. And I don't feel 100% right in saying that that's undeserved. I just don't. But yeah, I can agree that Taylor Swift's songwriting is not the most complex out there, but I'm just like, I don't listen to Taylor's music enough to have like an actual opinion on whether she's stagnated. But I do think, like I said, for every song of hers that I absolutely love, I can find a song of hers that doesn't necessarily do it for me. I'm gonna put that in okay. Because I can completely see what you're saying, but I don't know if I fully agree. All right, streams shouldn't count towards sales, singles, or albums. I agree with that. And that's why a lot of artists are putting songs that are a year or two old onto their album, just so that they can get whatever certification comes with the amount of streams that that song had, especially if it's a really popular song. I don't know, like, I'm really not an expert on how like streams are counted or how sales are counted, but to me it seems like you should count streams completely separately. Like, I don't think streams should be counted towards singles or album sales, but I would assume that the reason that they are counted is because nowadays in 2022, the amount of people who stream music probably not probably, I'm 100% sure it vastly outnumbers the amount of people who are buying physical singles or buying physical albums. So while I can understand why it's done, I think that it just kind of invites artists to sort of game the system by putting these singles on their albums. And it's almost like, why would you not? If that's what everyone else is doing and if it counts, why would you not? I agree with that. I'm going to put that in We Share a Brain. All right, and the last one. Polar Express and Home Alone are super overrated. I don't know, like I've said 1,000 times, I don't ever feel comfortable being like, this is overrated, because I feel like saying something is overrated just means that like other people like it more than you do and you don't understand why. And that doesn't make it overrated. But I will say I hate the Polar Express. I hate that movie. It's just so boring. And like the whole uncanny valley thing, like it's kind of scary. I don't like that part where like Tom Hanks is like the ghost train conductor or whatever. And you know that part where he's like on top of the train or something? I haven't seen this movie in years. And he just like disappears into like a puff of like snow, like a freaking dust cloud. I don't like that part. I don't like that movie. Home Alone is okay. I've seen it a couple times, but yeah, those movies don't really do it for me. And I'm also biased because I'm not a holiday movie girl, but We Share a Brain. All right, so this is our final. This is what we're rocking with. I combed through these opinions and tried to pick like ones that I knew that I wanted to respond to and ones that I knew that you guys would probably have an opinion once I read it out. We've got to understand what an unpopular opinion is, people, because even when I'm combing through other social media posts or like TikToks that are unpopular opinions, they're never really that unpopular. Like I'm not saying like say disrespectful or say messy things for the sake of being messy and disrespectful. But like an unpopular opinion is not something that you've already seen several other people say and you want to be the one to say it. So when we do this again, I want some mess. I want some real unpopular opinions. I want some drama. Regardless, this is still fun to do. But I just noticed that the opinions were very lukewarm this time. All right, so that is it for me today, dolls. Be sure to let me know what you think about any of these unpopular opinions down in the comments below. So this is officially our last video of 2022. And so next time you guys see me and next time we meet up, it will be in the new year, which is such an exciting thing to say. So make sure whatever you have planned for tonight, you are safe, you are responsible, you enjoy yourself, but make sure that I'm able to appreciate you and chat with you in the new year also. So thank you, dolls, for an amazing year. I know 2023 will only be better. As always, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe so that you can stick around for more. Also, make sure you follow me on Twitter if you want to keep up with me there. And if you would like to become a member of this channel, you can click the link in the description of this video. Love you all so much. See you next year. Bye-bye.